Welcome to the Forum Sunday morning here at All Saints Church. Great to have all of you here. Great to have all of you joining us online. As we are coming back together from our Omicron online presence only, we thought it was a good time just to check in with each other, to talk about some of the things that have been going on over the last couple months, give us some updates, and just as importantly, to give you all a chance to ask some questions or also just to kind of share what is on your mind and on your heart. We want to do this periodically. We've done some town hall meetings on Tuesday evenings, and those have really been wonderful and well received, but we wanted to kind of take this prime real estate of Sunday morning and have a chance to come together and talk about some important things in the life of our community. So my name is Mike Kinman. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the rector here at All Saints Church, and we are joined by just a wonderful group of people. We have Tony Jackson, who is chairing our strategic direction action team. We have Karen Meier, who is our treasurer. We have Sally Howard, our associate rector, our senior warden, Monique Thomas, Erica Tamblyn, who is working incredibly hard. You're going to hear from her and Sally on our Safe Haven program, and Julianne Hines, who is currently our junior warden and will ascend to the lofty heights of senior warden coming in April. So can we just give them a hand just for being here? Thank you all so much. It's great to have you here. God dwells in you. Let us pray. Holy and loving God, giver of all good gifts, we thank you for the gift of your church, that sacred mystery. Breathe your love through us, that we may receive your love and be conduits of your love to this world that so desperately needs us. Be with us as a spirit of compassion, a spirit of courage, a spirit of inspiration, and a spirit of joy. In this time we have together, help us to speak clearly and listen deeply. Help us to hear your still small voice in our hearts, in the spaces between words, and on the lips of one another. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to talk a little about, I'm going to try not to move around too much, because that'll help Keith if I don't move around too much. I'm going to talk a little about the budget. We're not going to jump right into a whole bunch of facts and figures. We're going to have an annual meeting at the end of March. The budget and all the financials will be posted on the website very soon, and you'll be able to sort of parse through those if parsing through budgets is your jam. I'm going to talk more about kind of how we got to where we are and some of the ramifications of it. Want to start off by saying we really want to hear the questions of you all here and also you all who are watching and participating with us online. We're going to hold questions until the end. We've got several different presentations, and then we're just going to open it up. If you are participating with us online, it's the same number as the text prayers. It's 910 text ASC. 910 text ASC. Those numbers are 910-839-8272. 910-839-8272. So talking about the budget. The vestry unanimously passed a budget for 2022 earlier this month. The budget is a little less than $4.5 million. It has a small deficit of about $17,000, which is less than 0.4%. We really are in, as we all know, a really kind of uncertain economic time right now. And so one of the things we're going to be doing this year is really monitoring the financial situation closely. The Finance Committee will be looking at income and expenses monthly to track how we're doing, and the vestry is planning on reviewing the budget at least twice, in May and September, in case any adjustments need to be made. On the income side, now an important thing to remember is a church like All Saints, we're a large church, and large churches usually have large endowments. We don't. We do not have a large endowment. In fact, we have a very small endowment for the size of our church. And in fact, if you look at the Episcopal Church, there's about 16 churches that have our attendance and our budget size or greater, and we are the only one that doesn't have at least a $10 million endowment, and ours is considerably less than that. So your giving, your generosity, is the vast majority of the income that we get, and we also get some building use income and things like that. And that's also income. The building use income in the parking lot has been hit really hard by COVID. So we set a goal for $3.3 million in pledges for 2022. As we came to this budget, we realized that we weren't going to hit that goal, that we instead needed to find a budget that found us falling about $300,000 short of that. And so a note on that also is, even to get to that level, which we budgeted on, which is about a $3 million level, we still have $120,000 to $140,000 left to go. So if you have not pledged yet, it's really vitally important that you do. Every little bit helps. As we always say, no amount is too small and no amount is too large. But please know that whatever you give and whatever you have given, it matters greatly. And so thank you if you have pledged and given. And if you haven't, I really hope that you will consider doing so for 2022. We are confident, looking at the numbers that are still out there from people who have pledged previously and have not yet pledged, we're confident that we can hit that goal that this budget represents. We passed a draft budget in October, and between October and February, a budget working group, which was made up of me and the wardens and the associate clergy and the treasurer, and then two other vestry members, Norwita Milburn and Christine Hartman, who is here. They did the majority of the heavy lifting of translating that initial draft budget into the one presented to the vestry. And what happened was, with this drop in projected income, we were looking between the draft budget and the budget we needed to present at about a $500,000 deficit. And so we really asked the question, what are these numbers trying to tell us? We had constructed this budget based on a group of planning assumptions, and it's what we did the year before. And one of them was that because of the pandemic, it really had changed so much, we said, you know what, we're not going to be going back to the way things were. And yet, as we looked at the budget as it was, we realized that in many ways, the gravitational pull of the way things were was really, really strong, and we were having trouble resisting it. And we realized that this deficit was also telling us a few other things. The first is that we're not through this pandemic. We really had thought that 2022 was going to be the year that the pandemic was behind us and we were going to be moving forward. This is still going to be a pandemic year. We don't know if there will be other surges after this one. There's a lot of uncertainty. Also, what happened to us with giving is not uncommon with churches and other nonprofits as we were starting to look around. When the pandemic hit in 2020 and early 2021, people really stepped up and gave more, recognizing it was a crisis time and they needed to step up and support a community they loved. And as the pandemic enters its third calendar year, the government's no longer providing financial assistance, and we're at a time of increasing inflation and economic uncertainty, as well as exhaustion and depression. And churches and nonprofits across the board are seeing a decrease in giving from the past 2 years. In addition, there are these trends that we've been talking about for years, which is the boomer generation, which has supported the church so generously, is moving into retirement, and their income is dropping, and so their giving is dropping. And in fact, many people, when they retire in this area, it's so expensive to live, and their kids and grandkids maybe live somewhere else. They're not just retiring, they're leaving. And so we have that trend. And also there's been a trend that has continued generationally of a decline in faith community membership during the pandemic. And these trends are both important for us to consider in this year's budget, and also for the strategic direction process to consider as we chart a direction for years to come. We also said, this pandemic, and we've talked about this more and more here, it is impacting and will continue to impact all the aspects of our life. And it's an opportunity for us to question previous assumptions about what is important, to listen to God's call, and to recommit ourselves to prioritizing the most vulnerable among us and following the love of the revolutionary Jesus. So with these things in mind, that budget working group adopted some additional planning assumptions. The first is that although we really, really hope we don't have to go online only again, that's not a certainty, and we recognize we're going to continue to have reduced programming and use of the facility at least through the fall. As you can see by looking around you in this space, people will continue to be slow physically coming back to church. It's likely to ebb or flow. 2021 showed us that new people, primarily younger, who have found us online are showing up and are eager to get involved in community, while some others are falling away, perhaps permanently, and sometimes it's hard to tell when we haven't seen people for a while who is engaged and who isn't. We are, all of us, in trauma. It means our capacity for creativity and embracing change and new things is at a low ebb, which means this year needs to not be a year of doing huge, new, exciting things. For us, change will probably mean doing less, not adding new things unless they are specifically targeted to address healing and community building. We're going to be focusing a lot of energy this year on a strategic direction process that is likely not to be complete until the end of the year, and Tony will talk about that more in a few minutes. It also means it's not a time to start big new ventures and preempt that process. We also wanted to be clear that not doing something in 2022 doesn't mean that we're never doing it again. It means not this year. Lots of different groups, CYF, Children and Youth Music, Adult Music, Formation, Spiritual Direction, Peace and Justice, have all been dreaming of big new things, and we just like, yes, keep dreaming. These dreams are what keep us going. We need to keep listening and dreaming, and frankly, filter those dreams through the strategic direction process so that they can become part of the broader dream of All Saints Church. Another thing that we recognized is that the staff is exhausted and morale is trending down. That they are functioning at as high a level as they are is a testament to the dedication and love for All Saints Church that this staff has. And so we have to be intentional about not only not taking advantage of them, but prioritizing care for staff as a resource. In addition, we have some long-standing unhealthy patterns of overworking staff. One of the most important things that we can do in 2022 that will have the largest impact will be to set healthier patterns for staff. And this can't be done without saying no to things. As a vestry and program staff, we've also been studying white supremacy culture, and we've recognized that there are pieces of that that absolutely apply to us. And one characteristic of white supremacy culture is that things always have to be bigger and better, that greater is more. And we realize that there are some powerful fears that probably unduly influence us. And this isn't to say that everyone has these fears or even a majority of people do, just that they're powerful forces in the system, and none of these are unique to All Saints Church. Here's one of them. People come to All Saints Church for, and then you fill in the blank, music, forums, youth programs. And if we don't go back to providing whatever that is at a high level, they will leave, they will take their money with them, and we will enter into a death spiral, which means more people will then leave, they'll take their money, which means more people will then leave and they'll take their money. It is this idea that we have to provide the best of everything. We have to be the most cutting edge and innovative. We have to have the best music, preaching, youth programs, attendance. And there can be a way that that's where our sense of identity and worth and lovability comes from. There's also a sense in the system that we should somehow be resistant to the demographic and other forces that are impacting American religious life. And if we aren't, it's because the staff and the leadership aren't doing as good a job as previous incarnations of that did. And a key element to all these fears is financial giving. We, again, fear that death spiral, a decrease in attendance and giving, both because it will impact our self-image and make us feel like other churches and lead to that death spiral. And the only thing that can counter fear is love and trust. And so part of what we talked about is we believe that if we address these fears with love, we will build a trustworthy realization that God has been, is, and will always be the heart of this community. That the strength of All Saints Church is not program or building. It is right here. It is the community and the presence of the holy that we experience through the Holy Spirit moving in us and through us. We have been imprisoned more than we have been empowered by these fears, and there is healing out there for us once we recognize our need for it. We are worthy and lovable just as we are and as we are becoming, and we are a beacon of hope, not just because of what we do, but because of who we are and how we are. And so as we began to craft a budget for 2022, we were looking for 4 different priorities. And I'm going to be really quickly and wrap this up. It's reconnecting, healing, listening, and imagining. So what you're going to see this year, what we're going to be doing together in reconnecting is we're going to provide opportunities for connection and care, particularly on the ends of that spectrum of grief over here and celebration over here. Saving the world and doing a big capital campaign or anything like that, that can wait. We're going to continue to emphasize and expand small group ministries. We're going to incorporate new parishioners and staff through relationship building. We're going to look, when we get together, to really sort of emphasize deepening connection and maybe not as much sort of didactic content, he says while he speaks at you for 10, 15 minutes. For listening, a lot of that's going to come in the strategic direction process. We want to give time and resources to that. We want to provide opportunities for prayer and scripture study. We want to build relationships with community partners that are about spending time with and learning from each other. We want to build space in staff and volunteer schedules for contemplation and listening to each other. For healing, and you're going to hear more about this in the forum here in March, we're going to put resources behind connection and care. We're going to look at music and liturgy as sources of healing, which also mandates not burning out the people who are running those things. We're going to focus on the work of intentional culture change, identifying what healthy culture can be and what needs to happen to move into a healthier culture. We're going to try to create space in clergy and other staff schedules to be more available for pastoral care across the community, which means that other things have to be taken off those schedules. And then the reimagining. We're going to prioritize participation in the strategic direction process. This year kind of needs to be a fire break between the pandemic survival mode and whatever we're called to be next. We need to have space to rest, recharge, and reimagine. And we're going to intentionally affirm our trust that All Saints Church has a hopeful future with a role for everyone. Now, some specifics about the budget itself. And again, this will all be on the website by the beginning of March. This was something that we just insisted on through the whole process. The staff did not get a cost of living increase last year. There is a 4% cost of living increase for all staff. We were able to restore fully, with a cost of living increase, the associate organist and choir master position. We were able to hire our 3rd associate rector, Mark Chase, which we're super excited about. We are going to be back up to 6 administrative assistants. Building up the support staff is incredibly important. We are going to be, yes, absolutely. We're going to create a new position of facilities office manager. A lot of this has been vacant since before I came here. And first Veronica Flores and then Gloria Lopez have worked incredibly hard and a lot longer than they thought they were going to have to filling in. We're also not going to be filling the position this year, the position that was formerly held by Juliana Serrano, the Peace and Justice OCC director. And part of it is we really want to let the strategic direction process take its course. We want Mark Chase to really get his feet wet and begin to know us. And then we can say, well, how do we best want to use this position as a resource and fill it, instead of just saying, okay, well, let's just fill this based on the same job description. We've had to cut some things back and eliminate them for 2022. We eliminated all the professional development budgets for 2022. We are hoping that our staff will take time off, and when they do, that they will rest. More on that in a second. We took more than 50% cut in liturgy, copying, and production. which means your bulletins are going to be looking smaller and there'll be fewer of them. Flowers in church are just going to be whatever money is raised. There's going to be opportunities for you to give to flowers, and when we have money given for flowers, we'll have them, and when we don't, we won't. There's not going to be a separate confirmation service. We've got a couple opportunities for confirmation for our seekers. The former presiding bishop, Catherine Jeffrett Shorey, is coming here for a visitation in April. There's also the diocesan service in May at the cathedral, and so that's what we're doing that for. We're going to put Jazz Vespers on pause, except for March. We have March already scheduled, but that's something, it's not just the expense, it's the time and energy it takes for building and ground staff. There's going to be no section leaders for worship in the summer. There's going to be no additional instrumentalists in our worship. We cut the budget for the Rectors Forum, so we're going to be doing a lot more sort of in-house stuff and building of community. As we eliminated the 1 p.m. service and as the Latino Hispanic community begins to imagine what new worship looked like, we were not able to provide enough opportunities for Grupo Arroyo for them to be able to dedicate the time permanently. We really hope that relationship will continue, but for this year, that's not a budget line item for us, and yet we are deeply, deeply committed to Latino Hispanic liturgy and worship here, and hope to continue that relationship. The vestry staff conference will be on site, and there will also be no more subsidized parking for this year. The other thing that we're doing is we're giving every staff member an additional 5 vacation days for 2022. Part of what we did in January when COVID was starting to go through the staff is asked every staff member to say, if you are incapacitated by COVID or whatever all of a sudden, I need you to develop a plan for what's going to happen, who's going to do what you were going to do. And some of that may be handing off, and some of it may be saying, well, for a while, these things just aren't going to get done. And so we're going to use those plans, and I'm having staff say, please turn in your vacation days, but we really want staff to use that extra 5 days of vacation so that they can, in addition to ones they already have, so they can rejuvenate. And then I'll close on this note, which is in addition to that, I've been here now more than 5 years, and so I'm taking a sabbatical. And so I will not be here. I'll be on sabbatical from basically Memorial Day through Labor Day, and I'm going to practice what I preach. I don't have not writing a book or taking, whatever. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to rest, and I'm going to recharge, and I'm going to pray. And I hope that we can all find ways to do that together. I said 10 or 12 minutes, and I took way longer than that. But you knew I was going to do that anyway. So that's the budget. And now I want to hand off to Tony Jackson, who's going to talk to us a little about the strategic direction process. Sorry about that.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me see if I can get this thing to not be in my face here. That's good enough. Okay, morning, everybody. I have the great pleasure of chairing the Strategic Directions Committee, which is comprised of Alfredo Peregrino, Art McDermott, Hannah Earnshaw, Julianne Hines, Mark Chase, Mike Kinman, Monique Thomas, Sally Howard, and Terry Knowles. And the purpose of the committee is to discern a set of strategic goals for All Saints that represent how we as a church can more fully live into our values and our mission. As a church that believes deeply in joyful spirituality and radical inclusion and courageous justice and ethical stewardship, what could success look like in 3 to 4 years out if we work together to realize these values through action? And as we walk with a revolutionary Jesus, what practical, achievable milestones is he calling us to strive for further down the road? So with great humility, the work of the Strategic Directions Committee is essentially to come up with somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 4 kind of North Star goals that articulate what we as a church hope to achieve in the next 3 to 4 years to more fully realize our values and our mission. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, for the most part, kind of what Mike was saying, what we have done and will continue to do over the next several months is to listen to you and to voices from outside the church as the basis for discerning our goals. And specifically, I think most of you know, hopefully, that we conducted a survey of the congregation which elicited over 150 responses. The survey was meant primarily really to take the pulse of the congregation. It was to help us understand kind of where we are now and what we're thinking and feeling about the church and about our conditions in the community and our country, especially as we are hopefully turning the corner on the pandemic. The survey asked questions about how we feel that we're living into our values now, and generally we said that we felt as though we're doing reasonably well in living to our values, but there certainly is clearly room for further growth. And you gave us some early indications of where you envision that growth needs to occur. The survey also asked questions that invited you to kind of say what's concerning you most about the conditions in our community and beyond, and about relationships between people and groups. And surprising to no one, there was a very deep concern about the divisiveness and the continued systemic oppression all around us, and the precarious and worsening state of our environment. But what really came through loud and clear was a sense of urgency in getting out and doing something to address these concerns through collective action. There was a clear sense that All Saints has and still sees itself as an actor, not a bystander. And also a willingness to do more, but maybe more in a way that's kind of more impactful and targeted in the way we do it. And to do what we do in collaboration with others of like-minded people and institutions. Your responses to the survey also suggested that we believe we have important work to do within our church to connect with each other in more authentic and deeper ways. A passion for going beyond othering to get to relationships based on who we truly are. In addition to the survey, Mike also hosted a series of listening sessions where we invited members of the community, the broader Pasadena community, to tell us, how does All Saints show up in the community? And how can we be an asset to the community as we go forward? And there was no shortage of ideas on how All Saints can use its power and privilege for the common good, including knowing and being willing to cede power to others who have the legitimate right and the capacity to lead, but are often marginalized. So now if you think of all the listening that we've done so far as kind of phase one, we're about to head into phase two of the process. And what phase two will comprise is a series of listening sessions, focus groups, if you will, that'll be conducted via Zoom as well as here in person at the church. And these sessions will be occurring in March and the first part of April. And generally, we're going to kind of try to keep these listening sessions, these focus groups, if you will, to about no more than 10 people, along with a facilitator and a note taker, for a conversation that'll last about 75 to 90 minutes. And essentially, there'll be a series of questions framed in part by what you've already told us that ask you to give us your vision of success over the next 3 to 4 years in living into our values and into our mission. We want to know how you think about All Saints can evolve in alignment with our values and mission. So as we walk along that road with Jesus, what parts of how we do things at All Saints should we bring with us, and what parts should we leave behind? We're going to make a special effort to ensure that the focus groups are broadly representative of the All Saints community, while also ensuring that everybody has the opportunity to participate if they so choose. So we're now in the midst of working out the logistics of how this is all going to work and organizing a calendar of listening sessions. So stay tuned. We'll be communicating with you very soon in multiple ways as how you can participate, and I truly hope you will. We need to hear your voices. And I should also mention that there will be additional listening sessions with our friends within the community during this period as well. So that's phase two. The third and sort of final phase of our committee's work, if you will, is what I think of as the discernment process. It's when we take all we've heard and we listen deeply for what Jesus is calling us to do. It's a process for looking for trends and commonalities in what we've heard, but it's more than that. It's not just that. It's also about listening for what I think of as kind of nuggets of wisdom, looking for that aha that helps us see more clearly what it is we ought to be doing. I've been down this road before, this kind of process, and there's always something someone says that captures the essence of what we're trying to understand, that leads us to a clarifying vision of what we're being called to do. Now, in practical terms, discernment means the committee is going to read our notes, and we're going to think, and we're going to talk, and we're going to pray, and then we're going to think some more, we're going to talk some more, and we're going to pray some more, and then ultimately we're going to come up with 2 to 4 goals that hopefully capture what we as a congregation have heard Jesus whispering in our ears about where we ought to be headed. And I'm hopeful that we'll have that preliminary or first set of draft, if you will, goals sometime in May. Now, what happens then? Well, the plan, hopefully, is that by the end of May, before Mike leaves certainly, we'll come back to you and the vestry with those goals and get your feedback. And we'll take that feedback and do some more thinking and talking and praying and come back with a final set of goals for the vestry to approve sometime in the fall, sometime towards the end of the year. And once that happens, these goals become the basis for strategic planning. And that means making and executing actual plans for the ways that we as a church, in collaboration with others, can achieve these goals over the next 3 to 4 years. And I say ways and not the way, because these goals will be of a sort that each invite multiple lines of work to fully realize, meaning many and varied opportunities for all parts of the congregation and staff to engage. And these goals are also meant to inform the budgeting process beginning in 2023. So that's about it. Again, I hope that you will stay tuned for more information about the process and how you can participate soon, and I hope you will. So thanks very much.
Good morning.
Tamblyn. This is,
Sally Howard.
We're here to give you a report about the Safe Haven. We're here to give you a report about Safe Haven. When COVID struck, homeless shelters were required to reduce our populations by 75%, displacing many unhoused persons into the streets with no place to sleep. A lot of them ended up right on the south side of All Saints. On our campus, and in response, we created the Safe Haven Bridge to Housing program in partnership with Union Station Homeless Services.
Can we take this out?
You got it? Okay.
Hold it right there.
I'll do it. Okay. So we created the Safe Haven Bridge to Housing program in partnership with Union Station Homeless Services, and we follow the Housing First model. Thank you.
We're a real team.
Yeah. Through the program, 12 individuals were provided with a permanent housing, a safe interim place to sleep and store essential items until they can be placed in permanent housing. Each participant is connected with a caseworker, housing navigator to gain access to medical, mental health, and other resources, as well as navigate the very, very complicated process towards permanent, sustained housing. Working with the Union Station team, as you've heard me say before, is a joy. They are dedicated, they're smart, they're kind, and they're really, really good at what they do. To date, we have been able to place 12 people into permanent housing and 3 into long-term shelters. Getting qualified to get into permanent housing isn't easy. There's a lot of paperwork and all sorts of hurdles to deal with. One step at a time, we work to help people qualify. We've been able to assist some of our participants to resolve immigration issues, which are also a stumbling block to getting housing. Each person needs a California ID, a social security card, a birth certificate, and Union Station does employ an individual whose sole job is to get people birth certificates, if you can believe it. They need proof of income, social security, general relief, whatever. They need citizenship papers, and they need to resolve any legal issues that they may have before they can qualify for housing. Getting all these things pulled together for people who have been on the streets for a long time is really, really hard to do. and not all unhoused people have the patience, the fortitude, the desire, or the mental health, frankly, to withstand that long, arduous process. The Union Station team is caring and dedicated, and they don't give up. When I'm ready to say, forget it, they don't give up. They're simply incredible. It's hard work, but there are joyful moments, both small and large. Each Sunday, the Nickel Diner from downtown LA makes delicious comfort food that brings smiles to the face of Safe Haven and other unhoused and food insecure people. We have a rotation of volunteers: Gail Gunther, Jan Cowell, Corey Madsen, Pedro Segato, and Bob, who distribute the food every week. Parishioners and friends of All Saints have knitted things to keep people warm and donated socks, blankets, jackets, and other things that we need. Even better, a graduate of our program got housed after many, many years on the streets. She then decided to put her life back together. She got a job cleaning toilets in the basement of the Rose Bowl, and slowly but surely, over the course of a year, has worked her way up and has now become a supervisor. And they have just put her on their 401k plan. Is that great or what? So it can work. It can be done. I am the chair of the program. Gloria Antal, who's right over there, is the co-chair of the program. And there's a committee of parishioners and Union Station employees who advise and oversee the program. So to date, we've gotten 12 people into permanent housing, 3 people into interim housing, and we currently have 11 participants in the program and 9 people on our waiting list. So that's the update from me. Sally?
I would just like to add and acknowledge Gloria and Erica for the incredible amount of work and time. And Mike for his vision from, the beginning, and the heart to find a way, to deal with the impact of COVID on our unhoused siblings, and working with Union Station, absolutely. It's a lot of work. I would just add a couple of details. All of our people are vaccinated. And again, a lot of hard work. And we continue to work in conjunction with the city, with the Hope team, with Union Station. And we have some new inquiries as to use this as a model, because this is a model that works and is sustainable. And we are ever looking for ever increasing ways to bring the Safe Haven community is our community. We're all one community, and bringing us together.
They also get tested by the city.
They also get tested for COVID by the city. So that's all.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Yes, I will, since I'm already up here. So I wanted to give you just an update on where we are with our COVID protocols. As you know, all the way through this process, we have been following the bishop's office, the directives from the bishop's office, and Susan has been very helpful in keeping us very up to date on that. We follow both LA County Public Health and Pasadena Public Health and their orders regarding COVID, and we have our own epidemiologist in residence, Dr. Nicole Gatto, and she has offered so much time and generous with her time to guide us. So we're still doing that, and we are still with our January 11th protocols for the most part, although those things are going to be, we're reviewing those over the next couple of weeks, and they will change. And that means that, you need to wear a mask inside, and those we are still sticking with either a surgical mask or, look at all those beautiful masks you guys have on. Also, the KN94s or 95s, and this is a sleek example from the CYF team. We are feeling safe, though, at this point to open up the church daily. So we are open. The church sanctuary is open daily. And we will probably be moving in the next couple weeks towards, masks outside being, optional. That's still, we're still reviewing. So we're still staying with our more conservative common sense protocols. That's what we're doing, common sense risk reduction. And I think the rest of it, you all know, if you're sick, stay home. And the staff is starting, we're starting to come back to campus. Last week I just can't tell you how joyful it was to have, people in the offices. So it's been kind of lonely. So it's just wonderful. And, I'm with all of you just grateful and looking forward to common sense risk reduction, but more freedom to do things that we have done. Anything else?
And as Sally sits down, can we give her a hand? She's just done amazing work, both with Safe Haven and COVID and implementing the circles model and just so much work. So again, if you're watching us online, that number again, operators are standing by. 910-839-8272, 910-839-8272. We really want to open it up. We got about 20 more minutes to open it up to your questions. And just want to say really quickly, actually, before we do that, the wardens, Karen, do you have anything else you want to add or say?
Wait, am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Is this thing working?
Yeah.
I'm just so blown away. I actually was talking to Erica today about Safe Haven, and I was one of the ones in the beginning that was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't sure how it would go, and just hearing all the success. What's so wonderful is that I think, as many of us know, Union Station was started right here at All Saints through All Saints parishioners, and the fact that we're going full circle with this work is amazing. And what it reminds me of, you get bogged down over the past couple of years with the things that have been happening with COVID and the change and the uncertainty. But at our core, we as All Saints, we are who we've always been. The spirit and the soul and the core of All Saints is who we are. And so I think as we hear about the budget and the strategic direction, I just want to keep everyone encouraged to stay in this work and definitely give us your feedback, participate in that, because we are still All Saints. And we're doing such incredible, amazing work here. And so that's pretty much all that I have.
Julianne, anything? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Anything?
I would just say ditto to everything Monique just said. And I'm really anxious if anybody has questions to hear or comments to hear your questions or comments.
And then also I want to say Karen Meier has stepped in as our new treasurer and has done just amazing work. And so, Karen, thank you so much for all the work that you have done. And now we're going to turn it over to you all. If it can be a question or just something that you want to say. Yeah, Julianne, could you? I think Gloria's got something, and then people are starting to text stuff in, too.
I just want to take a minute to tell you about Erica. I know she's not going to like this, but that's okay. I've worked with Erica for a couple years now on Safe Haven, and I want to tell you, I think she's a little bit shy about taking credit. This is a woman who many times is here on campus 7 days a week. She deals with security guards, she deals with the homeless, she deals with their families, she deals with the locker company, and how many times they have to come and fix lockers. She's hanging up signs, she's seeing the city. This is a woman, there's not enough money in the world to pay her for what she has done. Amen. Trust me.
Thank you. Amen to that. Other questions? Tom, up here in front. Wait till you get a mic. There you go.
Thank you. I want to talk about sex, or at least about sex education.
Uh-huh.
I was real pleased some years ago when All Saints decided to roll out the educational program called Our Whole Lives.
Yep.
The initial phase of that was disrupted by the pandemic. Maybe this is not the year, but I hope that's an initiative that All Saints will pick up again, because I do think it relates to all of our core values.
Absolutely. Do either Christine or Sally want to comment on that? Christine Hartman with CYS.
I'll just talk about that real quick. As chair of the Children, Youth, and Families Committee, it is something that we are still committed to doing. We definitely have been taking a break during this time, especially because it's something that is so important to do in person. And but it is, and for this year, we are still continuing to take a break, but we are definitely committed to continuing it, because we've gotten really great feedback as well from parents and children alike, and we would love to someday expand it. They have curriculum all the way. It really is our whole lives. So that's one of those imagining, dreaming things, but we're definitely committed to that.
Well, and I'll say, as a parent who had a child go through it, it's phenomenal. It is great, and so and just thank you for everyone who was working on that. Have a question that was texted in. I think, Sally, this is one for you. Would you consider having the people on the chancel remove masks when preaching or at the lectern? It is harder to hear masked people online, and some people benefit from seeing faces to understand the speech.
Yeah, it is. We can't do that yet. That's just not in the recommendations and the county guidelines. And, we're looking forward to being able to do it. We'll see what the direction is. But because of still some of the vulnerabilities and the fact that people can get COVID even if you're vaxxed and all of that, it's better from a health perspective not to have that, trajectory of things going out. Yep. We'll get there.
Thank you. Over here. Hey, Terry.
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Moore. I'm just curious, as I look around these last couple of months when we've been able to come back to church, about where people are. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of systematic way of finding out where people are, or are we just waiting to hear from them? Or has there been a census of the church that sort of breaks down? I know we must do that for pledging. There must be some pretty good data about that, but I'm just thinking of other areas of the church.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's a great question, Terry. And, the Community Care Alliance is still going and reformulating with pastoral care. And we are developing a new system, along with Thomas Diaz, of keeping track of, requests that come in to us. But it sounds like you're saying something like, are we keeping a list of, who's still here and who needs to be encouraged? And, we don't have a systematic way of doing it. Maybe we can talk about that. But I would encourage all of you, if you don't see people that you think should be here or we're here, please, call. I think Susan Russell told us a few weeks ago that she was calling 5 people a day. Anyway, reach out, because that's how we help people reconnect. And that's really important for all pastoral care in the church, right? We do get input, and we also need you to tell us about the needs. Yeah.
And if I can add to that, I think in terms of our communications, we're trying to do a better job of, I think, industry-wide and just in different areas, we have a lot of places are doing hybrid models. So there are, all of us are here today, but there are people who are online. There are people who may not have even known that the forum was in person today. So we're doing our due diligence to make sure that the things are in person, people know. But to Sally's point, some people don't know maybe that we're back, or maybe they don't feel comfortable, and it just takes that person that they know to call them and say, hey, I haven't seen you at church, we're back. Do you want to meet up? Do you want to have, a conversation outside? But just kind of reaching out, because it's easy, I think, particularly for folks who live alone as well, to try to just kind of get in the pattern of being home and being alone. And getting that phone call or that text from someone reaching out to you, inviting you back to church, is something I think that's going to be really helpful in reconnecting with folks.
Thank Again, the number 910-839-8272. Other questions or just thoughts or things you all want to share?
I have another question.
Go.
I have a question for Sally and for Erica. Are you accepting volunteers for Safe Haven? Do you need support from our church community or congregants?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. From time to time, we can use volunteers, especially serving food and things, but on a regular basis, what I'd want to do is invite anybody to come to our community meeting on Thursdays at 10:30 in the morning. Safe Haven members are required to attend the meeting, and people who want to become part of Safe Haven come to the meeting. Union Station caseworkers are there, and you can get a sense of what it's like and see, and maybe we can identify things as part of that process. Thank you. Sally wants to talk a bit.
I just want to say ditto. But also, it's such a great way of our communities coming together. So please, please come on Thursday at 10:30.
Yeah. And
10:30.
and there's also the Monday morning food ministry.
Yes.
Is also a great place to volunteer. And we've been having conversations with the city about bringing the mobile showers here on Monday mornings, because that's when we have a high concentration of folks here that could use those. And again, we've really been continually looking at how do we prioritize the most vulnerable among us. And that's something All Saints has always done. We've particularly been looking at how do we do it during this pandemic. That's why Safe Haven exists at all. We're continuing conversations with people like the Central Library over here, which is going to be closed for 7 years because of it has to have seismic retrofitting, and because it's on the National Register of Historic Places, they have to be very careful about how they do that. There are programs there that serve this neighborhood. They can't just relocate them to another branch. So we're looking at bringing, can we bring some of those here? There is a great summer school program called Skills. That helps students who really need summer school, and Pasadena Unified School District wasn't able to afford it. It gives them school credit. They've reached out to us of can we use this campus, and we're going to try to make that happen this summer. We're looking with the Fellowship Center for Racial Reconciliation at Fellowship Church Monrovia, hosting a weekend event for them. We're continually looking for ways that we can use this facility to serve the wider community, because that's what we're here for. So, we're going to continue to expand those things. And then also in terms of facilities use, I hope you've checked out the film and TV page on the website. You can take an amazing virtual tour of All Saints Church. And film location scouts are able to go in there and without even visiting, take measurements and look and map out whether this would be a good place for a film or a TV shoot. Huge shout out to Veronica Flores for setting all that up as we try to really maximize that piece of income over here. And okay, I do see Julianne raising her hand. Hey, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maddie Gable-Briggs, and my husband Patrick and I were members here for quite a while. We moved up north to Portland, and we are back. And what you had said about Safe Haven just totally triggered me, because I had thought, well, I want to get involved in that. So I would like to talk to you about that. But I also wanted to ask, watching All Saints for a number of years online and stuff, I'm not dialed into what the community within All Saints knows about homelessness here, and how the community in Pasadena, how people are reacting to homelessness now. There was an article in the LA Times, I think, last month, where they were surprised at the amount of empathy and concern that people have. People are not going about their business and ignoring homelessness. They feel it, it breaks their hearts, it breaks all of our hearts, but no one knows what to do. And that moment where you're approached for money, or you're at the signal and somebody's sleeping mere feet away, nobody knows what to do. So people want to do something. And I mean, serving food is good too, but we want to live this. We want our compassion to come out, and we don't know how to deal with it. So would Safe Haven consider putting on some kind of, dialogue or event where people are like, come and confront your fears about homelessness, your, whatever things you've got, because we're coming back to a community, and it's up in Portland too, and it's everywhere, and we can't just step over people and pretend that our lives are fine. We're all affected by this, and I want to bring the community in to understand, have dialogue around it, and not just send my money somewhere.
Such a great suggestion. Thank you. And yes, we can do that.
Yeah, and that's also a really good example of input for the strategic direction process as we really look at where is God calling us to focus our energy, and what are we learning from the Safe Haven program and this part of our community. There are no shortage of options. Certainly there's options legislatively that we can pursue, but the City Council has been working on really making it a lot easier for churches to provide housing, like build housing on your property. Is that something that All Saints is called to do? We have this sort of huge parking lot space. You know, our dreams are really unlimited in these areas. But what I would encourage you to do is, if you're feeling a call and a need, filter that through the strategic direction process, because that's where we really need to hear. Because if we're going to have impact, we need to do two things. We need to focus our own energy, and we need to work in collaboration with other community partners. So thank you so much. That's wonderful. Please come to a focus group meeting and say that. Other questions?
Yeah,
go
just
ahead.
add one quick comment. I just love that. And when I think about volunteers and ways we could expand, one of the things that the Housing First model, everybody we've talked to said that a church, a faith community can offer grounding in a real community, and a community, again, being part of. And I think there's ways we can expand. So anyway, I'm on to dreaming, and that's enough for now. There's more questions.
Yeah, just one more real quick from here. I'll just take on text, and then we'll jump back over to you, Tom. As strategic goals are developed and as a result of COVID, are we seeing any shift in mission and vision statements? And the truth is, no, not really. What we were able to do through the values and mission process is really, I think it was what Brian Robinson said, sort of determine what the special sauce of All Saints Church is that makes us who we are. We really felt nothing, and if you feel differently, run it through the strategic direction process. We're a community of radical inclusion, courageous justice, joyful spirituality, and ethical stewardship. That still feels like All Saints Church. What we're asking now is, how do we live into that as deeply as possible? So one more, if we run over to Tom.
With regard to the Safe Haven program, maybe I'm the only one who doesn't know, but where do people sleep? And what happens during the day?
People sleep in the colonnade, along the front, at the front of the guild room, and in the atrium area. And those are the only places they're allowed to sleep. And that's actually dictated by the city. We have an agreement with the city that that's where they can sleep. They have bicycle lockers where the rector used to have a parking space, 2 parking spaces actually. Now we have large bicycle lockers like you see at the Gold Line station. And each locker is large enough for people to safely store all of their items there. That also enables caseworkers from Union Station it really helps them because they can take them to appointments and they're not dragging, grocery carts full of stuff with them. They have a safe place they can keep their things. They are allowed to put their things out at 9 p.m. and then they must have sleeping things back in their lockers by 7 a.m. Individuals are allowed to use tents, which gives them a little bit of privacy, as long as they don't block any entrances, as long as they're small enough, and again, as long as they're in their lockers by 7 a.m. We've also managed to get people cots, sleeping bags, emergency blankets, which they put down as the first layer on the cot because it helps keep them warm, and all of those things must fit in their locker as well. So those, actually 12 people can fit quite well in those 2 areas, and it's working out pretty well. In addition, we do monitor security cameras for their well-being. In case we have intruders who come on the campus, we can identify people. We do have security at night. Sometimes some of them are patrols, some of them are times when they're there all the time at the high traffic times. And so those areas, they're pretty protected. They're safe in those areas, and we make sure that they are.
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to have to close. I know Keith has got to get up to do the 11:30 service. Next week, really important forum. it looks like the legal climate in this country it has been turning, and we are sitting on the precipice of, if Roe v. Wade is not overturned, at least access to abortion and reproductive health care will be seriously curtailed in many states. And so we're going to start preparing for what do we do if and when that happens. We're going to have Juliana Serrano from Planned Parenthood, Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley, also someone from Access Reproductive Justice here in the forum to talk about what is the current legal situation, and then also how can we prepare now, because when that happens, or if that happens, we're expecting a huge influx of people into the state of California looking for legal access to abortion and other reproductive health services. So it's going to be a really good conversation. Please come for that here in the forum and online. Can you please give a hand to all these amazing people for all the work they're doing? Thank you all so much. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all soon.